Everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. Howdy, Bud. Now that Bud's here, we can start the meeting. So, welcome everybody to the first Cascade Warbirds meeting of 2026 and our annual meeting. So, glad to see everybody here. Thanks for being here. This is our first time in this new room here, but it looks like should work out all right. We got our own private bathroom back there in the corner, so
the important part.
Don't go in there and start reading the Wall Street Journal or anything like that, because it looks like we only got the one. But looks like this should work out pretty good.
Please close the door if you need to go in there during the meeting.
And afterwards, yeah.
Like
All right. As we said, this is the annual meeting, so a little bit later here we're going to be having our elections for new officers and board members for the next 2 years. So stand by for that. We have a great presentation coming up here, and I'm going to ask, because we are going to have some new officers, new board members and all of that sort of stuff. This is just kind of a heads up for you right now. I'm going to ask for your input for what do you like, what do you not like, and what would you like to see before the end of this meeting. So be thinking about that now, and here in another hour and a half or something like that, I'm going to ask you all to start giving some of that input for our new board members for the next 2 years. This is your group. We're here to do what you want and to make this valuable to you. So if you have some suggestions, I've heard a couple of them come up already that we'll talk about that could be some pretty cool stuff. So be thinking about that. The way we normally operate here, we're going to have the meeting, the election, the presentation, all that sort of stuff. When we get done with all of that kind of thing, we normally break for lunch. The museum cafeteria is just right across the parking lot right there, and we'll go in there and have lunch. We ask that the first person that gets in there try to grab that back room so that we can all kind of sit together back there. Come on up. Got a spot for you here.
Not yet. Not till afterwards.
No, you got that now. Come on up.
Sorry, I-5 was a mess.
Yeah, don't go back that way.
Well, yeah, the express lanes only, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get to the express lanes unless you wait in traffic, because they started to shut down the lanes at I-90.
Oh, yippee. Let's see, the last guy in buys lunch, right?
All in favor?
I would remind you, though, that he now has the keys to your checkbook. So.
And the last guy in has no job, so no.
All right, so.
You're the new guy. You get to use the company.
Yeah, the company credit card,
Fred
right?
gives it to me.
Right.
Oh, you don't have it?
So as I said, we'll break for lunch. We'll go over there. We'll have lunch. Nice time to catch up with everybody and chat over lunch and stuff. And then after lunch, the board members, the new board members, will meet back in here, and we have our board meeting, and it'll be our annual board meeting, which will include budgeting. So any of you are welcome to come back and sit in on the board meeting. It's completely open. So feel free to come on back and watch as we grind the sausage for the next year. All right, questions, comments?
Welcome back.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I took off right after the day after the Christmas party and jumped in the Navy and spent a week getting it down to Florida and came back just to see you guys because I missed you guys.
So we were downtown Edmonds along the waterfront walking, and I see him flying by out over the sound, and I'm watching, and Robin's watching, and I was like, oh, I think that's Dave. Yeah, that is Dave. You know, kind of that beefy exhaust note, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually had somebody at the nearby the dog park say, I noticed you were watching that airplane. Why was he so loud? Because he's leaving ours flying to Florida.
Because he can be, yeah, right.
You gotta
right.
pull that blue knob back.
I did. I did. All right, so we're going to start out with new members and guests. So anybody that's here for the first time as a new member or guest, Bob, you'll introduce Chris for us when he's going to do the presentation. Anybody else? Any other new members or guests? All right. Well, let's get into it here then. Covered all that. Christmas party. Speaking of Christmas party, a month ago we had our Cascade Warbirds Christmas party up at the Hilton Garden Inn at Payne Field. How many folks here were there? Most of you. Awesome. What did y'all think of it?
Great.
Good time.
Was it good?
Good time, good food.
Except for the price of the drinks.
Yeah, well.
I've heard that. I don't know what we can do about that, but we can discuss that in a board meeting and we'll see if there's anything we can do about it. The other thing to think about here is, again, you're going to have a new board, new CO, new board members and all that sort of stuff. Do we want to stick with the same location, same caterers and all that? I know Bob Stoney's initial reaction is yes, it works, don't break it. But if anybody has any input, again, I'll be asking for input at the end of this meeting, and let me know. Anybody have any input just right off the bat? What did you think?
Gig Harbor.
We could. Well, it could happen. I mean, we over the years we've had them in a lot of places. We've been up there for a few years now. I think this is the third year. But
I thought it went well. I thought it went very, very well.
yeah.
Don't mess
Ample
with
space.
Okay.
If it works,
If it works, don't mess with it. Okay. Is that the consensus?
Yeah.
All right. Or Gig Harbor. All right.
Just a little.
You can fly in and TIW.
Yeah.
And one thing, I'm setting up a reunion, a Futter reunion, and at the hotel we're staying at, they said, well, we don't have a bar in the hotel, but we'll give you a meeting room and you can stock it with whatever you want for the whole party. So maybe something you could talk to the Hilton. And it's a Hilton that we're staying at, and they said, hey, you can do that. So I know we're not staying there, but we have some people stay overnight, so probably give them some business there, and we're renting that whole room for.
So you're talking you stocked your regular meeting room, or are you talking like
No.
a separate hospitality room?
Or you could either get a separate hospitality room or talk to them about, hey, they cater the food and we cater the booze.
Well, they don't cater the food anyway, we do.
Not cater the booze, I mean, we just
No, I know.
don't have them do it, we do it. It's, the Hilton allowed that, and why not North Dakota?
Well, that's why not, mine not, yeah.
Everybody throws $20 in, we go raid the liquor store.
Yeah, it was.
Clean out the NEX and take it all direct.
Well, the NEX is right there, yeah, that's true.
That's thinking now.
There's an
Yeah.
option.
I think there's just a
Everybody, you're
question
doing
whether,
this.
because it's a group meeting in a public area, it could be a legal issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you just gotta
Liquor license and-
talk to the hotel staff.
Let's see,
Hey,
which-
we'd like to come back again, but
Which state do you think has more regulations around liquor? North Dakota or Washington?
We can't afford to move the party to North Dakota.
Did they give us a deal on the room based on them getting to sell the booze?
Well, they already do. We actually have a contract with them that says we won't pay anything for the bar as long as we meet a certain sales. It's like $75 an hour or something like that. As long as the bar generates at least $75 an hour, we don't have to pay for the bartender or anything. Bud does that all by himself, so. So I never worry about that part. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it was only 2 drinks there. All right, well, let's make sure that gets captured going forward. That'll be one of the items that we work on. Okay, Puyallup Aviation Expo. Dan, you got some words for us there?
Yeah, the Puyallup Aviation Conference and Trade Show will be at the Puyallup Fairgrounds once again on February 21st and 22nd, Saturday and Sunday. I've got sign-up sheets up here. We're looking for people to cover 2-hour shifts. If you can only cover 1 hour, let me know. We're willing to work with you, just as long as we can have the booth manned. It's usually a pretty good time, and you can get out and wander around, hit the other booths, hit a seminar or two while you're there.
What were the dates again? I'm sorry.
February 21st and 22nd.
So it's the weekend after the next meeting.
Yep. We're still waiting on confirmation of a booth, but we've never had an issue in the past. And usually they wait until they get all of their paid booths populated before they open it up to the nonprofits. Yeah.
Have you tickled them there? Just
Oh yeah. I let them know that we're interested in that.
Okay.
I told them that we're happy to participate again, and we're looking forward to it.
Awesome.
I think somebody's rolling a chair up the ramp.
It's just me, sorry.
But yeah, that's about it. If you know your availability and you want to sign up now, feel free to do so. I'll be putting out an email once I get my new email address settled, hopefully, and you can just respond to that, and I'll fill in the blanks on the form. So that's really about it. Any questions? Okay.
Pete, fill in any blanks that I may miss on this, but our team, for everyone with the Youth Memorial Aviation Scholarship, has got together. We've combined some footage, and Bob Stoney's daughter has actually done some interviews with some of our previous scholarship recipients, and we've came together with the video that is online. Some of you have maybe already seen it for the 2026 scholarship applications that we are currently receiving up until March 1st.
Correct.
All right. And hopefully we can hear it.
My name is Corey Zendejas. Right now I'm currently a flight student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University pursuing my commercial pilot's license in their course.
My name is Sejal Shah. I would definitely like to complete my private pilot license. After college, I hope to become an Air Force pilot.
My name is Asher Pedersen. I really do love flying. It's something that has been a part of me for as long as I can remember.
What first got me into aviation was actually my dad. He was an Air Force pilot and he flew KC-10s and C-21s. He agreed to have a friend take me up in his Cessna. And for the first time at 2,000 feet in a Cessna 172 in the right seat, I got to move the yoke. And for the first time, the aircraft actually moved. At that moment right then, at about 9 years old, I knew this was the only thing I ever wanted to do.
The first flight that I ever did in a small plane was through the Cascade Warbirds. The first intro flight I ever did was also through them. So I am really grateful for just having that kind of catalyst to start my whole journey.
So I first heard about the Cascade Warbirds the end of my freshman year of high school. I did 3 takeoffs and landings for my first solo. I was awarded the Cascade Warbirds Scholarship in 2022.
If you're unsure of applying, just go for it anyway. Fill out the questions the best you can and just try, because you might get it, and it can be a really helpful and life-changing for you, as it was for me.
If you have even a small interest in aviation, that you should go for it. This scholarship is a great way to do that and to not have any negative consequences from that. I mean, there's no downside to applying.
Interested in aviation? Apply to the scholarship today.
Cool, so we have a couple of weeks between the trade show and
The thing that we discussed at the last meeting, we thought that it might be advantageous for each of our scholarship recipients to be assigned a mentor. You got all kinds of fragmented ground school situations now. Some of them are online, some of them are in person. It's a little harder for the students to have somebody to ask questions to. We thought, hey, look, we have all these highly experienced pilots here. So it's kind of a two-way street. to make another asset available to the scholarship recipients to ask questions, to help them progress, and also to be able to report back to the scholarship committee and say, here's the progress that the student is making. We would like every one of our scholarship recipients to be assigned a personal mentor, an experienced pilot within our group here. So we need folks to stand up, volunteer, say, yep, I'd be happy to mentor a kid, and it'll be all, one-on-one. We won't have one guy mentoring, all 6 students or anything like that.
It's going to be most important for the mentors if the scholarship recipient chooses to do it online.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in person, isn't so bad. And again, Candace has made a hell of a deal. They'll even donated time for that.
I love it.
So, but she's only let us have 2. But I'll
Yeah,
explain
well.
that later. But if anybody wants to do that, let me know. And again, it's most important for those that end up doing the class strictly online, because they have nobody to go to and ask questions.
Yeah. But again, I think it's a two-way street that also, again, allows feedback to the scholarship committee. Say, oh, this kid's really, killing it, hitting it, knows a lot of stuff, taking the test, taking the flights and all that, or, hey, I haven't been able to make contact with this person for 5 months, so you kind of know what's going on. Plus, I think it's fulfilling for us. I mean, we're all to the age now where, our flying career has less time in front of us than it has behind us, and it's time for us to kind of give back. Well, maybe not all of us. So, time for us to start giving back and, helping some of these young kids get off to a good start. And like I always tell folks, sometime, maybe that time has already passed, maybe it hasn't. But at some time right around now, the first human being to set foot on Mars is going to get their first flight in a small airplane. How would you like to be the one that gave it to them? How would you like to be the one that got Neil Armstrong into aviation? So, good opportunity for us. So, you want to be a mentor? Let Pete know. Let your board members know. Sign up. Could be good for everybody. All right. I think we're ready for elections. Everybody ready for elections? Okay, so as most of you know, the nominating committee met in the last couple of months and went through and looked at who's available, who wanted to continue on, who we wanted to bring on. We had some goals. We wanted to try to get some new blood into the board and the leadership so that we get some new ideas rather than recycling the same old ideas all the time, and also so that we help build our bench so that we have a larger cadre of individuals that can step in and make sure that Cascade Warbirds continues for another 30-some years going forward, because you never know when something's going to happen. You might get hit by a bus or move to Florida. So, who knows?
You're never.
Airplane's already down there, mister. All right, so the recommendations from the nominating committee were the new CO be Bob Stoney, the new XO, Dan Shoemaker, the new operations officer, Jay Barella, new finance officer, John Haug, and the new adjutant, Brian Ruby.
You already took that class?
Yeah, he's been through the training.
Fred's giving him online
All I
training.
need is a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
No, Chivas. For the board of directors, Carrie Edwards, Pete Jackson, Paul Yeoman, Bob Hill, carrying on, and 2 new members to the board, Justin Drafts and Trent Hendricks. And our chief marshaller carrying on, Hyo Cool back there. So that's the recommendations from your nominating committees. Anybody got any questions, comments, anything you want to ask the candidates?
At
Hearing-
Vote for them as a whole?
Yeah, generally, unless somebody's got an issue with that. So generally, we say all those in favor of the nominated slate, raise your hands. All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. You have a new board of directors and new officers. Welcome aboard. Bob Stoney sends his regrets. He's on his way back from overseas. He'll be back in a couple days and taking over the reins there. But in the meantime, his very capable XO will be leading us in the board meeting. So, all right, congratulations all. You guys want to get your gear spun up here?
This is Chris Banya-Ripple. I hope I pronounced his last name correct.
Yes.
Close enough?
Yes.
We just call him Chris BR because we don't want to mess with it, possibly. I've known him for a number of years. First met him with the Northwest Scale Modelers, which were the group that does a lot of the models for the Museum of Flight here. From then it progressed on to Internet Modeler.
Yep.
Did some things for him. He owns Internet Modeler, which is out there. He's an aviation historian, book writer, as you'll find out. Great photographer, great modeler. And I guess
Illustrator.
Illustrator, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget the illustrations. That's right. That's why I was asking about the graphic artist. I guess that's about it. Without any further ado, here's Chris.
Thank you. So yeah, that great introduction there. So I'm going to be talking about a series of books that I've started doing, and it's basically the telling history through photography, and it's related to the photography of my father, who was an aviation historian like myself, but also a photographer, and as Bob mentioned, also I'm in modeling. I got that from my father as well. So like father, like son. So that's my dad right there. He flew with the Marine Corps out of NAS Seattle. And this is me. I flew down the streets of Spokane on my Schwinn. But we both share a passion for aviation history, aviation in miniature, and aviation photography, or photography in general. But it primarily focused on aviation history. As I was going through, now my father passed away about 5 years ago, so I inherited all of his photo collection, slides dating back from the 1950s all the way to the late 90s. He had about 30,000 slides. Half of those were family. The rest were all aviation. And so that's what I've been working on, is going through his slide collection and figuring out, what can I do with these slides? How can I tell the story not only of my father, but also of the things that the photos were showing? As you're probably all aware, historically, aviation history, because it's a modern thing, we're finding references in newspapers and magazines. That's traditionally what we had started with. That's what my father collected when he was younger. There were no real books of aviation. It was always newspaper clippings. You'd have the old Flying magazine, if you think of that from like the 1930s, 1940s. That's where the information came from. During the Cold War, things started to shift, and we started seeing books, and even more books. As we got further along, those books went from long texts that just were nothing but people's recollections or actual histories that were written down, to more and more photography being put into the books. Then we came to the internet age, and that photography side of it just exploded. As I'm sure you're all aware of, you're taking pictures of your own planes, you're posting them on social media, you've got video. There's just a ton of stuff that is now visually available for for aviation history. But that also leads to a question of, what is fact and what is fiction? And that's where I really turn into, especially for this group, which is, you're Warbird related. You have a Warbird. What was it supposed to look like back in the day? It's a very interesting question. So aviation in miniature ties into that, and this is where my father and myself really kind of dove into not necessarily what a photo shows of a plane, what kind of engine does it have, what's the airfoil ratio, what's the wing sweep angle, but more of what markings were on it, what colors were they, why were they painted that way. And so this is where you start looking at, here's a photo of something historical, oftentimes black and white, sometimes color, and now you're having to interpret that. You're trying to take that photo, a two-dimensional look, and turn it into an ultimate three-dimensional piece of artwork that you could turn around, move around, get a representation of. Those two really dovetailed well together. And then we come to the question of, with photos, we're talking about history, but is a single photo actually history? And it really isn't. It's a part of the historiography, but a single photo, even though it tells you 1,000 words, it doesn't really say much without context. This photo right here shows a lineup of 4 B-47s. A strategic bomber during the Cold War, nuclear armed. The story behind this that the photo does not tell you is that all 4 of those bombers are loaded with nuclear bombs in that photo. And they're sitting on the ramp at Spokane International Airport with nothing more than a thin little cable separating civilians from 4 nuclear-armed bombers with JATO bottles on the side ready to take off at a moment's notice. Any idea as to why? Anyone? Of course. Yeah. Why else would you have nuclear-armed bombers way the hell up here? So yeah, those were the bombers that were based down in the south. They came up here. Why they were put Spokane International instead of 5 miles away at Fairchild Air Force Base, which had security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I have no idea. But just that single photo, you look at that and you're thinking, oh cool, it's a bunch of B-47s. There's no story behind it. So there's always going to be context put into these photos. And so as I'm going through all of my dad's slides, I'm seeing, like I said, 15,000. Just sorting them into categories took a long time. But then as I'm going through them, it's like, okay, how can I put these in greater context? And the easiest way is to look at historical events. All right, 2011, the U.S. Navy celebrated its 100th year of naval aviation. So I used my internet modeler credentials, contacted the Navy and say, hey, can I go photograph your kickoff event at NAS North Island? And they said, sure, here's your media credentials. So immediately called my dad and said, hey, you're an employee of my magazine. We're going to San Diego. So we went to San Diego. We photographed all of the special scheme aircraft. We documented all of that stuff. That was a very easy book to put together. In fact, at that time, that was one of my first on-demand books that I put together. Took the photos on Saturday day, went to the hotel room. I had the book already laid out beforehand and was dropping the pictures in that night. Sunday, they had the public event, so I got some photos of that. Finished the book, and on Monday, it was published. I crushed the dreams of about 4 other authors who were planning on doing that book because I beat them to the punch that much. So that was an easy way. Makes sense. Historical event, very simple one to do. With my dad's slides, the most logical one was to talk about his time at NAS Seattle in the Marine Corps Reserve. And so that's the first title of my book. And this is all the view that I'm sure you're all familiar with of what NAS Seattle, now known as Magnuson Park, looks like. And that's what it looked like back in the day. A lot flatter than now. But all these hangars still exist. So those hangars right there, or those ones right there, that building right there is not there. But so much of this stuff still exists in there today. And so that brought about a fun time of trying to connect not only the stuff that my dad took pictures of, but trying to connect it to the present day. And so that's what really kicked this off. So when my dad was in the Marine Corps, it was between 1958 and 1966, and he was, like I said, he was in the reserve. So he was living in Spokane, and he would fly over to here. He was in two different units. He started off flying the Sky Raider, or not flying, he was crew chief, but flying in Sky Raiders. And so that's where I really started off this book, was let's look at the aircraft that he started out with. And this is something that my dad really was proud of, was how filthy the planes were. But he kept them flying. They didn't really care about soot, grime, unless it was critical systems. And so that was one of the things that, going through his photos, trying to consolidate, it's like, okay, here's a snapshot of not only what the planes were, okay, it's a training unit, but how the people thought at the time. You hear a lot of stories about famous pilots and what they did flying the plane, but as you all know, that flying the plane is only part of the story. Maintaining it is just as important, if not more so. The last thing you want to be doing is flying along at 7,000 feet and all of a sudden have everything stop. NAS Seattle had a lot of different training aircraft. They had helicopters. They had the Sky Raiders. They had, what's that one called? Yeah, you guys know. T-28s in the background. You can see Beach. Yep, Beach 18. Oh, what's the Navy designation?
Well, SNB originally.
Yeah.
C-45.
And then, yeah, C-45. There's a C-54 back there. Another in another photo that looks further away, I think in 63, 64, they actually had C-130s flying in and out of NAS Seattle. Don't jump ahead. That's coming up. S2 trackers. My dad took photos of as much as possible, but this was also his young years. He was learning photography at this point. So framing, figuring out how to use, and it's not digital, so it's a single roll of film. What do you take a picture of? He loved aviation, so he's taking pictures of the whole plane. There's very few pictures of people compared to what other people were doing at that time. That were taking pictures solely of the people and not of the airplanes. And as I mentioned, my father was very much interested in his other hobby of scale modeling. So he was taking photos with the idea of trying to figure out, how can I do this to the next model I'm going to build? After the Sky Raiders, he went to the other side and was crew chief on these guys, the C-119s, which this opened my eyes greatly when I started researching this book, because this plane, specifically the Marine Corps Navy planes, there is so much scandal around those ones that I might even write a separate book. There were Senate investigations on the start of that plane and on the end of that plane. The end of the plane actually saw I think it was the nephew of Ronald Reagan serve jail time. So fascinating stories. For NAS Seattle, though, I mean, these were the planes that my dad did most of his long distance traveling in. With the Sky Raiders, they flew around all over the Pacific Northwest, low level, high level, buzzing coastlines. He's got photos from inside of a lot of that stuff. Ironically, the only photo my dad ever took of Mount St. Helens was during a flight when he flew was flying a Sky Raider, took a picture of his wingman, and Mount St. Helens is off on the side just as they're going by Mount Rainier. 30,000 photos, that's the only photo he took of Mount St. Helens. Lived in this state his entire life. It just blows my mind. But yes, Neptunes. Large planes that were here. Now my dad, when he came in, it was after the really large planes, so he never took any pictures of the privateers that are sunk off the coast in Lake Washington. But the Neptunes, the C-54s, do I have, the S2 trackers. They even had albatrosses fly in there. Not a Navy one, that's actually an Air Force one that was, I believe, out of McCord. But this really goes to show where, I mean, you could see landmarks in there already for the Lake Washington coastline. And that was the other aspect of these photos was I'm looking at locations of the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, and the West Coast from 50, 60 years, 70 years ago. Anyone recognize that? Yeah. It looks a lot lower now there than it does now. So couple more for you guys to guess. Now you guys, you fly around a bit, so those should be recognizable, right? Anyone got any idea on that one? Nope. Remember, we're talking, yes, Las Vegas, that's what it is. That's McCarran right up there. Yeah. That's basically what I said when I figured it out. Because, that does not look like that now. That's Rock Island Dam. So Wenatchee's right up over here. I have other photos of his taken from various places, Washington State, maybe Oregon, and I just flat out cannot place them because things look so different. Even the pathways of rivers have changed in that time frame. But when it comes to understanding history, I mean, even these, I mean, that tells a huge story right there. If I could go and take a similar photo from that angle today and superimpose it, I mean, just the level of change in that and what brought about that change would be a story in and of itself. So going through that first book and telling my dad's story of his life at NAS Seattle, again, that was a fairly easy story to tell. There were still a lot of gaps because his photos were limited. He only could take 24, 36 photos at a time. But there's also restrictions. He's in the military, and they do, like that photo of the B-47s we showed earlier. He never told anyone about that. He took that from inside the C-119 that he was taxiing by as he was getting ready to leave Spokane. So no one saw him take the photo. It's a good thing he did because now we actually have photo reference of just the incredible security that we had at that time. So the next books that I started to do were going to be on the individual aircraft. Now, 15,000 slides, he has a lot of individual aircraft that could fill an entire book. Other subjects, he doesn't have enough, but they would fall into subjects. So individual aircraft, the next book in the series was on the A4. Now, this is the other side of my dad's photo collection. Is he didn't take this photo. He was not in the Navy. He was not at Vietnam. But he did inherit photos from other people. So these photos were taken by a Skyraider pilot during the Vietnam War. When he passed away, my dad inherited his slide collection. Oftentimes, those slides just get thrown away. And that all of this history is just gone at that point. And again, Vietnam War. All right, we know about Robin Olds, we know about all of the famous pilots. But this guy right here, he's got a history. And that guy right there, he's got a history. If this got thrown away, that wouldn't ever actually be seen. Have no idea who these are, so we won't really know what their stories are, but at least we know that they were doing a job, doing it well, because he caught his wire, so that LSO brought him home. So a lot of the photos that my dad took were at Fairchild Air Force Base during air shows. But because my dad had some good connections, he was always able to get on base a day, 2 days before, so he was able to get photos without crowds. And so he's able to capture, again, unique subjects like the bicentennial aircraft that were making the circuit in 1976. The other base in Spokane was Geiger Field. And the Air National Guard was flying fighters at that time, and would see a lot of other aircraft stop in there, such as this Montana Air Guard TF-102. And again, my dad had access to that base. I mean, back then, if you knew the right people, you could just walk onto military bases. Floors me today. I mean, it's just insane. But not only walk on, but he's on the flight line of an active, functioning aircraft that's getting ready to leave, and taking photos like this that show here's how they load the parachute on an F-102. They just grab a Home Depot ladder and climb up back to pack that in. I mean, granted, Home Depot didn't exist back then, but when you think of most like professional photographers, they're not going to want that. They're going to say, no, take that down. I want a nice clean photo that shows nothing out of the ordinary. And my dad is like, no, I want to photograph the planes as they were, as they operated, what they were actually really like. These kind of photos, when you think of the professional stuff that ends up in like the Library of Congress and the NARA archives, you don't really see this kind of stuff because the professional photographers would see that and go, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to throw that away after they took the photo because it wasn't clean enough. And so these kind of amateur photos become very important in understanding that historiography of how were these actually used?
I think that he must have thought that even with the ladder, that was a better angle of the TF-102.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the other side of it, yes.
Yeah.
So he has very few photos of the TF-102, but the vast majority are from the ass end. So another example of what he would do is that he was just as interested in the nice, clean, shiny examples like that EA6A, as well as the we're just going to touch up everything at every possible angle to make sure this thing doesn't fall apart kind of paint job. And both of those tell stories, different stories. This one here could be that the plane is brand new, fresh out of the paint, or it could be that that unit had just extremely high morale and they're like, no, we got this nice gloss black tail, we're going to make sure that it stays nice and clean, we're going to make sure we keep all of the exhaust soot off the lower back cleaned up, so that, a lot of pride in the plane. It's Marine Corps. My dad was in the Marine Corps. That latter one is probably not the case. This one is probably just fresh out of the paint shop, because, in talking with my dad, the Marines really didn't care about keeping things clean. They just wanted to keep them running. B-52, man, that's beat up. So then that's raising a lot of interesting questions of why is it painted like that? Because, this is SAC. If there's one thing that people in aviation history know, it's that the Strategic Air Command was very, very strict about a lot of stuff. So chances are this one is going through some kind of update. So there may be avionics, maybe complete refit. I'd have to go look at the date. This might be one that's going in to get the change in the wing for denoting that it had cruise missiles for the START treaty. All the B-52Gs that could carry cruise missiles had to have that big curve thing, which I believe the Museum of Flight one has, so that Soviet satellites could look down and go, oh, if it's got that, that means that it's a cruise missile B-52 and it follows the treaty. So there's another side to the photos, which goes back to the modeling aspect. And Robert Capa summed it up perfectly, that if your photos aren't good enough, you're not close enough. My dad did a lot of close-up photography of aircraft. These tell a story in and of itself. So again, he's a modeler, so he wants to have details to replicate in scale. So he'd take pictures of the landing gear that shows just all of the different plumbing, but also it's not just a plain white. You've got different levels of color and wear and stuff that he would want to replicate in a scale model. From a historical standpoint, that photo shows so much more than, say, if you go and look at the A6 here, where that's going to be nice, pristine, shiny white, polished chrome. So you never know what leaks, what doesn't leak, what's a problem, what isn't a problem. These show what an operational one would look like, and then that in itself would say, okay, when you think of someone who's doing maintenance on an A6, what do they have to do in this area that they wouldn't have to do someplace else? And that's just one small aspect. And again, all those people that are doing that, they're part of the history of that aircraft. Nose art, or in this case, it's an F-105, so it's fuselage art. So that's a unique aspect that, again, tells a story beyond the story of, hey, this is cool, they painted an F-105 on the side of an F-105. That's kind of meta. But someone had to paint that. And they did a really good job. Not only is the outline pretty decent, the camouflage pattern matches the camouflage pattern of the actual aircraft. So they paid that much attention to it. Speaks volumes to what kind of mental state that artist had in him. That's someone who's like, I'm proud of this plane. I'm proud that I have taken part in helping with this. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make sure that plane looks the same. And that Fox is going to look cool. And that's another side of these photos that oftentimes you'll see a photo of the whole plane and you'll see that, yeah, there's a little bit of artwork. but you never see the details. And the same thing goes for things that, why would anyone want to take a picture of that? But it goes to the scale modeling side of things. For a scale modeler, knowing how all this stuff drapes and the connectors and colors, that's important. For the average guy, who cares? For you guys that are Warbird people, knowing this also comes into play. Because if you think of, if you look at most reference sites on, I believe this is a seat out of a Phantom, you just think that the whole thing is black with a khaki cushion. But there's lots of little details in here that are different colors that if you wanted to be authentic to what the original looked like, this was painted red for a reason. May not be apparent, but everything has a purpose. And if it doesn't have any kind of documentation, you just don't know. There's also more to the story. So when you're doing close-up photos, you have this. It's kind of suggestive. But there's more to that story. So 1980s. There's probably plenty here who remember 1980s, might have been in the Air Force during that time frame. They had a very negative view on any kind of personalization in the Strategic Air Command. All of their bombers would have no nose art whatsoever, and that came down from on high. And it took a morale hit from that. And so then you have the lowly crew chiefs, maintenance people, using what we would term the weapons of the weak. It's like, okay, well, we can't paint those classic World War II style pinup women on the side of our plane, but hey, the B-52 has this interesting camouflage pattern right at the wing root, and if I just punch out a little bit here, punch out a little bit here, and add a little tiny dot in the middle, I got a pinup. But it's camouflage, so they can't say anything. My dad saw it immediately, took a picture of it, documented it. Unfortunately, he did not take a picture of the whole plane, so I don't know which plane it's on, but it's there. And I did, when I was researching this, trying to see if I could figure out which one it was, that apparently caught on, because I found at least 2 other B-52s that had a similar treatment, that definitely different shape, but it was the whole plane that I could see, and so there are at least 3 planes with that kind of pinup artwork. And so that's basically all I've got. I'm willing to answer a lot of extra questions. These are the books that I currently have in. These ones over here are the ones that I have done. They're all on Amazon. This one here will be published by the end of this month. B-52, A-7 Phantoms are going to be later this year. But then I'm also going to be looking at breaking into categories like, I've got a book planned on helicopters that's just going to cover the history of all of the different helicopters, Bells, Sikorskys, Kamens. There'll be Strategic Air Command, there's going to be fire bombers. My dad took photos of everything that flew in the air. Some things he took a lot of photos of, some things he only took a couple of photos of. But I'm going to try as best I can to make sure that those stories do get told one way or another.
So the Century Series is out or not out?
It is out. It's available right now. Yep. In fact, my I was when Bob roped me into this, it was a bit later on. I wasn't able to pre-order a bunch. I would have had some here if I had like 3 months warning. Because apparently trying to order these books off of Amazon during the Christmas season, apparently they got a crap ton of book orders come in. So I ordered my Century Series books back in first week of December. and they're showing up tomorrow. So,
Did you end it with the 106 or 111 or what did you?
106.
Century.
Yeah. Which, on the cover there, that's the first F-106 squadron operational, which was out of Spokane International. The Geiger Tigers got the first operational F-106s, and then very quickly got rid of them. But, of course, my dad's got pictures of them, and there aren't very many photos of the F-106s with that unit. So, yes.
Were you able to get many pictures of the Project Warrior nose art renaissance in the early 90s when SAC started authorizing some beautiful nose art on tankers and B-52s and B-1s?
Yeah, he does have some of that stuff. So, living in Spokane, I mean, he was really focused on stuff that was happening at Fairchild. So there was some of the Fairchild birds had some nose art that really kind of blew up in the 89, 90, especially with Desert Storm. That really exploded that. Fairchild got rid of their B-52s not too long after that. Interestingly, and I think it might have just been because they were just always there, my dad didn't take very many photos of B-52s. Compared to other planes, I mean, he has like 800-900 photos of Skyhawks, but he only had maybe about 200 or so of B-52s. And yet they were constantly in the circuit. But yeah, there are some of those that I have documented in the B-52 book. And unfortunately, there was one that he has a couple of photos of. When I went and looked it up, went through 3 different name changes in like a 4-year period. They were changing that artwork regularly. I think it's gotten a lot more stable now, but yeah, that was a great renaissance.
To go one further, one thing I found interesting about the Army is the crew chiefs started taking sidewalk chalk and using that to make nose art on Apaches and Blackhawks, and I just thought it was hilarious that it's just instant and it washes off in a good rainstorm. But from a modeling perspective, that really, I mean, number one, chalk is kind of difficult to replicate, small chalk lines, but
Colored pencils.
But yeah, the sky's kind of the limit.
Yeah. In the Century Series book, Geiger Field, there were 3 out of the Century Series. So it's the F-100, 101, 102, 104, 105, 106. Geiger Field had the F-101, the F-102, and the F-106. Voodoo's my favorite plane. So I love that one. Of course, I barely remember it because they got rid of those in like 78, and I was 8. But I do remember going out to the end of the runway. They had the alert hangars there, and those F-101s taking off. Feeling it right here. I mean, it's such a great feeling. But the Canadians, Comox, flew Voodoos as well, and they were a constant sight down at Fairchild. Well, one year they come in and they look like they flew through a toilet. So for that year, they were doing exercises up, I believe at Cold Lake, and they had taken literal giant mops and buckets of brown and green paint and just slathered the sides to knock down the shine and make them a little bit more camouflaged. Well, when they flew to Fairchild for the air show, they flew through a rainstorm. Water-soluble paint, that thing came through and it was streaked all along the side, and my dad loved it. Took so many photos of that. It's like, I don't care about the clean ones, show me the cool ones. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff in his collection, and it's it's real, like I said, it's one of those impetus that drove me to doing this series is we see so many clean, pristine aircraft. Let's see how they were really, really used.
The one B-52 that had the imaginative camouflage, there's a very well-known CH-53E from Desert Storm, where the Marines did much more blatant tan and dark brown of a female figure on the side. It's much more obvious.
Yeah. In mid '80s SAC, you could do some stuff,
That'd
but
be subtle.
oh yeah,
This is not subtle.
yeah.
No.
No, and that also really kind of made. It's interesting because TAC didn't have the same restrictions as SAC did, so it was you saw some more variation in TAC with like the F-105s had a lot of artwork on them. They weren't as blatant as some of the later stuff, but they were still pin-up silhouettes at least. And names, there's one that's in the Century series that on one side it had a standing silhouette of a woman with Hussey 2, and on the other side it had a reclining one with just Hussey. So I'm not sure why it was Hussey and Hussey 2 on the same plane, but that stuff was intact. But SAC was that. I should go and look up who the commander of SAC was at that time, but apparently he had a pretty big bug up his butt about nose art.
Would any of these books be available in the museum gift shop here?
Not yet. I haven't. So these, I started the NAS Seattle book was published last year. So I did the first 4 over this last year. I haven't really approached Museum of Flight yet to see if they want to have these in there. I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
I was going to say, I think the Seattle one in particular is.
Yeah. I do have my roadmap 4 books, probably going to be somewhere around the neighborhood of maybe 40 total titles. One of them will be on Geiger Field because Geiger Field in Spokane, that started out as an Army training base, had B-17s and whatnot. Dad was born in '39, so he doesn't really remember much of that, but he does remember the Navy at Spokane. So NAS Spokane, they had Hellcats, Avengers, Bearcats, Panthers, Cougars. I mean T6s, C-45s, but who cares about those, right? I think the Cougars were the last ones that they had. And then at the time that they were still flying Cougars, that's when the Air Force had interceptor squadrons to protect Hanford. So they had F-86s, F-102s, F-106s. Then the Air Guard had F-89s, F-94s, F-101s, F-102s. So there's a lot of really cool Cold War hardware on both Navy and Air Force flying out of essentially a regional, well, international airport.
We have a member here who flew 106s out of Geiger back then.
Yeah.
Might be somebody you might want to talk to. Bob can probably hook you up with a Dan Barry.
Yeah.
And he flew 105s.
Yeah, he did that one.
Even cooler.
Wheels and driver.
I mean, I'm sure he probably enjoyed flying the 106 more than the 105, but the 105 is just a cooler looking plane.
Can you bring up just any picture from NAS Seattle? And then I'm going to bore the audience with military or Washington State military history. So don't fall asleep yet. That's good. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, let's, okay.
So
let it catch up here. Okay, come on. It's a slow computer.
So each naval air station and naval facility will have a tail code associated with it. For the longest time, NAS Salem down in Oregon, post-war, was coded T. That's all it was, T, not 7T, not 6T. In the mid to early 50s, the Navy decided, well, we're gonna expand that a little bit. We're gonna add either a 6 or a 7 based on where the NAS was. If it was in the south or in the northern portion of the country, that was 7. South was 6, including down in San Diego was 6. So at that point, and with the closure of NAS Salem, the T was transferred up to NAS Seattle. So for the longest time, it was just T, and that's what is currently on that PB4Y that's sitting off the coast over on the runway and is down there for people to go and see. It's like 400 feet down or something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy, but the T is still obviously there. When the Navy made the change, it became 7T. And what's interesting is that upon the closure of NAS Seattle, the 7T was transferred up to Whidbey. So Whidbey to this day is still 7T, and the 7T you can see on their MH-60 helicopters that they fly up there.
Yeah, and so NAS Spokane was N. But they closed down before the number was assigned, so all of their aircraft just had an N on the tail, and so I want to say they closed down in '54, and my dad started flying in '58, so it was between '51 and '58 when they added the number, and he was always 7 Tango, so by '58 it definitely was.
Yeah, and I think the Navy did that because it had gotten confusing at the time. The CVGs and the fleet were just single character, so you didn't have, NG or NH or any of those for the current air wings. They were all just single, like an S.
Yeah.
And I think there was some overlap there that was a bit confusing.
And for real confusion, you'd have to turn to the Air Force side of things. So going into my aviation history, so one of the books that I did was on the F-86 D and L Sabre Dog, primarily an ADC interceptor. Tons of units flew that. And on August 18th, 1955, the U.S. Air Force changed all of their designations across the board. And in Spokane, you had the 520th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. On paper, became the 498th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. Nothing else changed. Planes were painted the same. The only thing that changed was the number designation. Even the emblem type stayed the same. It was still the Geiger Tigers, but they just crossed out 520 and wrote 498. Same thing at the group level, same thing at the division level. It's a historian's nightmare because when you're trying to follow the process of, all right, this unit did a deployment here. Well, was it the 445th out of Wurtsmith, or was it the 445th out of the other place? You have to do this little cross-reference. Well, it's this date. They were assigned to do that TDY on this date, but in between the assignment and the actual TDY, that fell on that date. And I mean, it was really tough to follow a lot of that stuff. And like I said, across the whole board, really lots of fun dealing with that.
Let alone the 1962 designation change.
The F-110, the F-4.
Yeah.
Oh, the R4Q to the C-54 for the Navy, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
For our 5D.
And if you'd like, I can give you a quick little blip on the entire scandal of the that thing. All right, so this is going to be great. So Kaiser Automotive, making cars, they bought the Willow Grove aviation plant. So they said, hey, this is an aviation plant. We should probably build planes. The Kaiser cars weren't doing all that great. And the guy that was running it was like, well, we gotta pay the bills and gotta make some money. So let's do contract with Fairchild to make C-119. And so the Fairchild ones were built with the 4360 engine. Kaiser is like, well, we're going to build these for the Navy, but we're going to use the 3350. So it was a little bit cheaper for them to buy. So it's like that will help boost our bottom line. And so they started building these for the Navy, Marine Corps, and some export. Canada got some of these Kaiser ones as well.
Lower horsepower, right?
Kaiser didn't care about that. I'm sure that their marketing pitch was, the maintenance is easier.
What's $7?
Yeah. So they started selling these to the U.S. government, and they were moving a bunch of them. A couple senators started looking at this, going, "Oh yeah, okay, we're licensed production. This is great, no problem." And Kaiser was like, "This is great. We're now using our aviation factory to make airplanes." They got into an arrangement with Chase Aviation to manufacture the next aircraft, which was the C-123 Provider. And then those senators are like looking at things, and they asked that really annoying question to Kaiser of, why are these planes with a 3350 $1.2 million each when a Fairchild C-119 was $280,000? That's what we call a little bit of a discrepancy.
It's the Dago paint.
Yeah. So Kaiser answered that by going to Argentina.
That's all good German.
Yeah. I mean, no Germans ever go to Argentina. They started up a car company down there and continue making cars down in Argentina. Kaiser as an aviation company went under because Fairchild was really impacted by that greatly. The U.S. government gave them the C-123 that was designed by Chase, because Chase had given that to Kaiser. Well, now Kaiser is like gone. So that ended up going to Fairchild, and Chase as an aviation company ceased to exist. And so Fairchild continued on. They made the C-123. They made the C-119. Kaiser continued doing his cars. Plane did well. It went on through an illustrious career internationally, locally. They were retired. And then they got a new lease on life. We've all seen the movie Always. John Goodman getting dumped on by a C-119, which happened to be one of the Kaiser ones. Well, that's where the next scandal comes in. And this was a massive shell game that was in part done by the nephew of Ronald Reagan. I can't remember his first name, but he still had the Reagan name, of essentially promising military C-130s to firefighting companies in exchange for their old C-119s that were basically derelict, with the understanding that they cannot use these for anything other than the firefighting mission. However, they sold all of those C-130s to companies that did no firefighting missions, and instead they used those C-130s for clandestine missions in South America. These planes were not supposed to leave the United States. They're still military owned. It's basically, you can use these, but it's still a military aircraft. That led to a massive congressional investigation on that resulted in the jail time of Reagan, and nothing else really happened. The C-130s, some of them are still missing, and they're still on U.S. military books. So there is some thought that they were used. One might have been used during the Falklands War by Argentina, which then connects back to the Argentinian connection in the beginning. So yeah, born and died in scandal, basically. And yeah, if I can dig up enough references and resources, I'd love to write a book telling that whole story on those, because it's a fascinating one.
My dad spent his naval career at NAS Seattle, and did they ever introduce jets at NAS Seattle? I think that was before they wound down and made it surplus.
They had a T-33.
They did, okay, they didn't have Panthers or at night, I think there was, or something of that nature.
I don't think so.
If
Uh,
there was, it was probably just an errant guy flying in.
yeah, the runway is pretty short. It's like, I know they did air shows there, and I'm pretty sure that the jets that flew in there, they'd fly probably here to Boeing Field, remove as much fuel as possible, and then fly in to hit that, because I want to say it's only 7,000 feet.
Yeah, the Blues flew their Tigers out of there during a Seafair one year, and the Golden Hawks also flew out of there.
Yeah. But then after that, I think they're like, no, we'll do the show there, but we'll go to Boeing Field.
One P4Y pilot found out, don't take off without flaps there.
Yeah. Yeah, because
No, I think it's 6 something.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not much margin on that runway.
There, if you look out on YouTube, there's someone that's taken home videos, as well as a lot of Seattle stuff. There's a time where they show a lot of pictures of the privateer taking off and landing and flying out on the coast and whatnot in Seattle. It's kind of a cool thing. It's all in color, but you can tell as they get airborne, it's immediately there's the coast. I mean, you're right. So they even with flaps, they were right on the edge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at that, and yeah, when you take off, heading this way, there's, I mean, one engine out, what do you do? I mean, it's like.
Yeah, the plane's sitting up to the top of just off the boat ramp there, apparently, up to the top of the picture.
On this side?
Uh-huh.
I thought it was down here.
Not the other way.
Huh.
It was taken off to the south. Didn't put the flaps down. Oops.
Did you guys are small aviation. There's and I saw that you were doing a pilot scholarship, which I think is great. And I don't know if you've seen a recent video that just came out of a student pilot down in I think it was in Australia. So the news, you'll have to look it up. The news interviewed the pilot right after the accident. So the news clip starts off with the photo or the video of the plane, the accident of the plane, on fire, huge cloud of smoke coming off of it, and then they're talking to the pilot. And he talks about how he has to, learn better on how to land and stalling. And he finishes the interview by saying, "I'll do better next time." All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you.